Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of BSing Sports. With me, as always, is Ryan. Um,
Hey,
hey, how you doing? How's your day? I know you were doing a lot of schoolwork.
yeah, it's schoolwork today, and then I had a physical therapy appointment today. I went and got dry needling done. I don't know if you've ever had that done, but it feels like my calves and Achilles tendon just ran the Boston Marathon. It leaves you extremely sore.
That's
So like I
that
can't bend
sounds
my knee, can't bend my
interesting.
ankles. Yeah, I kind of just like waddle around the house. My dog was making fun of me earlier. He was also waddling around the house. So I was like, "Thanks, asshole."
Pete, what's going on, man? Yeah, thanks for joining us here on BSing Sports, a part of BSing Network, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. Orphan Rivers, thank you for your intro music. And yeah, let's get into it. For those of you following along, this is the Week 15 NFL recap show. We're going to go over, you guys know who won and lost, so we're going to touch on that really quick, but we got a couple of topics we want to talk about on every game. And let's just kick it off. Biggest comeback in the NFL history started off the weekend. Colts were up 33-0 with 10 minutes and 14 seconds left of the third quarter in this game. And as you can see, in overtime, the Vikings come out victorious 39-36.
You know what's funny? When the Colts were up 36-14, I believe it was, right at that point, I went on Twitter and I said, bad teams find ways to lose games, because you and I talk about that all the time. And there's been a couple games on this slate this week that we will talk about where that actually, occurred. Good teams find ways to win games. Bad teams find ways to lose them. And boy, did the Colts defense ever find a way to lose this game for them. People are going to look at Matt Ryan. I've made the jokes too. I made a pretty good joke. I think it went over everybody's head, but I said, Matt Ryan likes the sound of 33-0 better than 28-3, because 28-3 comes with no ring to it.
I feel like a lot of people missed that, but I didn't miss it. I caught it.
He didn't get a ring. So, but yeah, no, this is not in any way, shape, or form Matt Ryan's fault. You cannot be up 33-0, about 33 points. That's plenty of points scored to win a football game. 33 with, I'll do you one better. The Vikings didn't score until just over 8 minutes left in the third quarter. So in 15 minutes of game time in the fourth and 8 minutes and 22 seconds, so 23 minutes and 22 seconds of game time, the Vikings scored 36 points.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the Matt Ryan thing, because everybody is going to immediately look at Matt Ryan, but the reality is, a quarterback, you go out there, you put 36 points on the board, you're not looking to lose that football game, especially when the other team had 0 going into the second half of the game. So no, Matt Ryan absolutely should not take the blame on this. The defense needs to look long and hard at themselves. You can kind of a little bit say, well, Jonathan Taylor got hurt, so they couldn't run the football. Got hurt, I think it was the second play of the game, actually. And they couldn't run the football, therefore they couldn't really run the clock. But still, you can't put everything on Matt Ryan, especially when your defense gives up 36 points in, what is it? What you just did the math, 23 minutes? Like, come on.
Yeah. Here's another interesting tidbit from this game, right? So none of the Vikings drives lasted longer than 3.5 minutes. None of their scoring drives lasted longer than 3 minutes, and 3 minutes 3 minutes and 40 seconds was the longest one. It was the touchdown that ended the third quarter, the 1-yard pass to CJ Ham. So that tells me that they were getting down the field with some real efficiency. Yeah, like real efficiency. Like I don't understand. The Colts defense just had an epic collapse. And then Pete brings up a good question. So let's talk about this. He's talking about the QB sneak with Matt Ryan. How does he not get the first down? I actually think that, okay, the officiating in that game was terrible, right? And
Yeah.
you, Pete, as a Vikings fan, Bill and I, as fans that just genuinely didn't care who won in the first place,
Correct,
can look at it and be like, the officiating was terrible. So the very first, the bad one, was the Michael Pittman one, where they were ruled forward progress was stopped, despite the fact that Michael Pittman was very clearly still fighting for extra yards. To me, in my opinion, that might have been the right call to blow it dead according to the rule book. I think they need to reanalyze the rule, because Michael Pittman was still well within his right to fight for extra yards. I don't think that the play should have been blown dead. And then the second one was the clear fumble. Like, I mean, the ball was out early. The running back was still standing upright and the ball was out. And then the play was blown dead. And then I tweeted this out. In the NFL, as an official, if there is even the slightest chance that the play could go one way or the other, you just got to let that play out. Like, we have replay for a reason. Let replay do
Trust
its
the
job.
replay.
Yeah, especially because it would have been a turnover and a touchdown, so it's automatically getting reviewed anyway. Just let the play out. Screw it. Like, whatever happens, happens. You can always go back and undo it. But now the Vikings, who I don't think they actually scored on that drive, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's the one drive that they kicked a field goal of all the ones that they went down and scored.
Yeah, I just don't get it. You got to.
Oh no, it's not. Right after the messed up call is the one where it was a one play Dalvin Cook slant touchdown.
That was after the
fumble.
QB sneak. That was after the QB sneak where they stopped Matt Ryan for time. And that's what I was going to touch on. So the Matt Ryan QB sneak, right? They blew that play dead early too. And maybe from the overhead view, you could argue that he got the first down, but I'm glad that they were consistent with blowing the play dead, because if you want to look back at the Michael Pittman fumble, they blew the play dead and ruled forward progress was stopped too soon. They did the same thing on the Matt Ryan quarterback sneak. So my opinion, the refs still owe the Vikings one, but in the end, I think that there was some consistency, right there. Yeah, the Pittman one was a field goal by the Colts, but I don't think that the second fumble that actually got overturned and was given to the Vikings, I don't think they scored on that drive, if I'm not mistaken, because it was pretty deep in Colts territory. I think they ended up turning over on downs, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I don't remember very specifically. I won't lie to you. When it was 28-0, I turned that game off. I had to turn it back on when you guys were like, "Hey, this game is getting close," so I turned it back on.
It's funny. As soon as you turned it back on, I think Kirk Cousins threw that second interception to Jalen Reagor, which, by the way, both of those interceptions were on Jalen Reagor. Neither one of them were on Kirk Cousins. I mean, the deep crossing route, we all saw Jalen Reagor just stop running the route. I mean, that's pretty on par for the course for him. And then on the first one, he's running a short little 5-yard comeback where he comes back, shows his hands to Kirk Cousins, and as Kirk Cousins is releasing, he does like this weird like jump cut to get out of the way, and then the ball goes the first spot Jalen Reagor was at and goes 6 points the other way. So
I'm surprised he's still on a team.
I don't think that that's going to last very long, to be honest with you.
Yeah, talk about a first-round bust. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on from this game. Let's get to the Ravens 3, Browns 13. Without Lamar, listen, the Ravens just can't move the ball effectively without Lamar Jackson. Not to mention, I know you said we were going to do the injuries on Friday's show, but all of a sudden, just about every position, or I'm sorry, come on, Bill. Either way, position player for the Ravens right now. Thank you. Skill position players for the Ravens are dropping like flies right now, and I wonder if they're all actually injured or if they're just like, we see the writing on the wall right now. So my question here, right, is proof that they can't do anything without Lamar. Does Lamar get paid?
Not by the Ravens.
Because he doesn't want to be a Raven anymore.
I don't. I just think that the relationship's too sour. The whole drama with the last offseason of Lamar wanting every penny to be guaranteed, like Deshaun Watson, and then watching Russell Wilson sign a not fully guaranteed contract right after Watson did. I think that set said that precedent that Watson set was a little fake anyway. But I just don't think that he's a Raven. I don't think that the relationship can be saved there. And truthfully, we've talked about it on this show, like Lamar's doing like just enough. Is that somebody that you really want taking up $45, $50 million? Or do you want somebody that can go out and convincingly win you football games? To his defense, all the skill position players, Devin Duvernay being the most recently, dropping like flies, But Dobbins is back. Dobbins looks really, really good right now.
Good for J.K. Dobbins, especially coming off of back-to-back, or obviously the big injury last year and a minor injury this year. But you're right, he does look good now that he's back. It's just unfortunate they couldn't get anything going at all. Tyler Huntley just was not a threat, and the Browns weren't threatened to buy him at all. And it was extremely evident in the game.
Yeah, 17 for 30, 138 yards on 30 passing attempts, 1 interception, no touchdowns.
Correct.
Deshaun Watson looks a little better. I don't think that he
Yeah,
looks
we
like
could touch
Deshaun
on that.
Watson, but 18 for 28, 161 yards, touchdown, no turnover. So
And you're finding those quick. Yeah, look, you said this a couple weeks ago. I mean, really, you've been saying it all year that Deshaun Watson was not going to look good his first couple games back. And true to the statement, there is he has not really looked like vintage Deshaun Watson. Now, we also don't know what Deshaun Watson is anymore because it's been so long since we've seen him. But as the rust keeps getting, he keeps kicking the rust off, he'll start showing more and more signs of quote unquote vintage Deshaun Watson. And if he's as good as he was in 2018, 2019, the Browns are in pretty decent shape. The rest of that team is not bad. They've got a good running attack with Nick Chubb. The defense is pretty good. And then,
the
you got
defense
them.
is taking a step back this year. They've allowed 326 points this year, but I expect them to be better next year.
So do I. You go ahead and you get Amari Cooper, who's going to be a huge weapon for Deshaun Watson. They just got to, play a little more, start to feel each other out a little bit more. But it's going to work. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones obviously took a step forward this year, and he's playing really well. So they're going to be good. If obviously it all hinders on whether or not Deshaun Watson's, like a good version of Deshaun Watson, or if he's, the 2020 version of Deshaun Watson.
I mean, he should be okay in the long run.
All right. The Dolphins go to a very snowy Buffalo, and it actually wasn't snowing to start the game, but it was snowing to end the game, and put up a pretty good fight, 32-29. This is one of those conversations where Ryan already hit on it, right? Good teams find ways to win these games.
And Dolphins aren't a bad team; they're just not the Bills, Whereas the Colts are like if the Dolphins were up 33-0, I would expect them to win that game, not blow the lead like the Colts did. But
listen, the Dolphins have lost 2 in a row now, both the playoff teams and AFC playoff teams at that. Makes you wonder if maybe they got really hot at the wrong time.
Yeah, if at this point in time, I can comfortably say the Dolphins have played themselves out of Super Bowl contention, where I thought that they were, and I'm pretty sure you thought that they were too, especially after the Bradley Chubb trade. However, Super Bowl teams aren't 3-5 on the road like the Dolphins are, and it shows, that they struggle to win games away from Miami, and it's only going to get colder. So,
it's true. That's very true. Let's see.
Josh Allen, 25 for 40, 304 yards, 4 touchdowns, add another 10 carries for 77 yards. I mean, masterful performance from him.
Yeah, listen, the snow didn't seem to affect him at all.
No, I mean, he grew up in Wyoming, or he went to college in Wyoming too. It gets pretty cold there, so I imagine cold and snow don't really bother him too much.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Eagles game. Eagles 25, Bears 20. This game was closer than a lot of us predicted. But again, good teams win these types of games, right? Good teams win these hard-fought games. Bad teams find a way to lose them. The issue that I have is that Jalen Hurts ran the ball 17 times, and now he's dealing with a shoulder sprain, which, is kind of a big deal going into a Christmas Eve matchup with the Dallas Cowboys. So Miles Sanders only gets 11 touches. He had 1 before half. Yeah. What was Shane Steichen thinking there?
I couldn't tell you, especially for a Bears defense that screamed run the ball against them, because they've been terrible against the run this year. They haven't really been great against the pass either, but they've been terrible against the run this year. It didn't make a whole lot of sense, and specifically because all over the place in the first half, Jalen Hurts had his worst game of the season throwing the football. He was awful.
He came out in his press conference afterwards, and he said he wasn't seeing the field very well.
And he said that he did not prepare for the cold, and that's fine. That's great and all, but I don't know what he was expecting going to Chicago in December. I get it. You're an Alabama kid. You went to Oklahoma. You didn't really play too many games in sub-zero or single-degree digit weather. That to me, you have to prepare yourself better for that. So as an Eagles fan, I'm just like, hopefully better next time. As somebody who's looking at this and trying to analyze and break down the game for people, I'm like, that you got to be better than that. So worst game of the season by far for Jalen Hurts.
I would agree with that. And again, still the team finds a way to get a victory.
Good teams do that.
Good teams do that. Yeah. So
Hey,
for those of you who haven't had a chance to check it out, our affiliated network talking or our affiliated show talking 215 had Dr. Joseph Mesa of the Delaware Orthopedic Specialists on to talk about the Jalen Hurts injury, and he said with shoulder sprains, any other position they'd probably be able to get through it, but because it's Jalen's throwing shoulder. He's expecting that Jalen will miss some time, but he doesn't think it's going to be a lot of time. And Nick Sirianni kind of alluded to that too today in his press conference.
we'll
Stating,
talk about that stuff, like how much time we think he'll miss on Friday, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, just talking 215 shout out.
They're okay. They're pretty good.
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance yet, you should probably check them out.
For sure.
Moving on, we got the Falcons 18, Saints 21. Desmond Ridder, 13 of 26, 97 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He rushed 6 times for 38 yards. Overall, an extremely underwhelming outing for the rookie quarterback in his first outing. Tyler Algier ran for 136 yards. He looked really nice.
Fantastic outing.
Yeah, but like I said, no discernible passing game, which has been the MO for the Falcons the entire season. But we thought maybe with Ridder coming in, the passing game would show a little bit signs of life, and it just did not. So Desmond Ridder time in Florida,
you thought that their passing game would show life. I think that this was a very predictable performance from Desmond Ridder. I don't think that he's the answer for the Falcons, and I think that it was just time for them to move on to see that. But watching him in college at Cincinnati, he was a 3rd-round pick. The fact that they waited this long to turn to him kind of, tells me at least a little bit like maybe this guy isn't good in practice or whatever the case may be. But this was a pretty predictable performance against a defense that's been pretty underwhelming this year. So, it's not like the Saints. This is the top 10 Saints defense that we've always known. This has been a defense that's been, could be better for sure. Drake London, was the big beneficiary. That's what I expected. And, 7 catches for 70 yards. And he had just an awful rookie mistake, a terrible fumble where he had the ball stripped straight from him instead of, play. It was essentially what happened to Michael Pittman kind of, except the play wasn't ruled dead. So, Drake London.
Very similar situation.
Got to be a little bit more vigilant, a little bit more aware of what's going on around him. But Tyler Algier had a fantastic day. They ran the ball all over the Saints with effectiveness. So, and then on the Saints side, Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. Taysom Hill threw a dot. I mean, they threw the ball with ease, and Andy Dalton looks good, and we might have an Alvin Kamara reemergence, 21 carries for 91 yards.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tim said on Friday, the Saints win games when they give Alvin Kamara the football, and proof is in the pudding, right? You open up the passing game when Kamara is a threat on the ground. It's plain and simple. If you take Alvin Kamara out of it, Andy Dalton can't do those things. Taysom Hill can't come in and throw the ball, for a touchdown. It all starts with Alvin Kamara for that offense. And again, Timmy said it flat out. Like every time that Kamara has over, I think he said 17 touches, the Saints have won the game. And here he is for 21 touches, whatever amount of yards, because I don't have it sitting in front of me. I think it was 112 yards. Again, don't have it in front of me. And look, the Saints win 21-18. I mean, proof is in the pudding, man.
21 carries, 91 yards, 2 catches, 13 yards. So 23 touches for 104 yards.
There you go. All right. Let's get to the Lions and the Jets. 2 teams that I've been pretty high on for most of the season faced off here. Lions are 7-7 right now. They've won 6 of their last 7 games. Jared Goff, 3,600 plus yards on the season, 23-7 touchdown to interception ratio. You and I said this last week. You actually told me to say it with my chest. Jared Goff is not the problem in Detroit right now. And they are on the precipice of being a playoff team. You're talking they're half a game behind the Commanders at 7-7, and they very easily could make the playoffs this season. They need a little bit of help. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. No, go ahead.
Yeah, so they do absolutely need a little bit of help, but they've played well enough to be a playoff team, and right now they are the hottest team in football. I don't think you can point at anybody else except for maybe the San Francisco 49ers and tell me that team is hotter than the Detroit Lions right now. And it's coaching. This team has hardcore rallied around Dan Campbell, much like Ryan and I have been talking about for a year and a half now. They believe in his system, they believe in his philosophy, and they trust him. And what did I just say? Proof in the pudding, right? Proof's in the pudding. 7-7 on the precipice of a playoff berth.
Yeah, and they've scored the most points in their division. So, as we've touched on in previous episodes, this is not a team afraid to get into a shootout. Now, that's not what this game was. So, I am very impressed with the Detroit defense, and I'm very impressed with the game plan that they had coming into it. They forced Zach Wilson to have to throw the ball. The Jets only averaged 2.3 yards per carry. They ran for 50 yards as a team. It was an abysmal offensive performance from the Jets as a whole. I don't think Zach Wilson played terrible. I don't think he played like he did before his benching. I don't think he played great. He did not get any support from the Jets team, though. I mean, we're talking about a guy who got sacked 4 times. And like I said, they ran for 50 yards and less than 2.5 yards a carry. So you ask a guy, coming straight off of benching who's been struggling this year to essentially try and win you that game. And, he didn't. But I don't think – that throw across the field, the touchdown to the tight end, that was that was impressive. But then he was constantly overthrowing guys and underthrowing guys, so he definitely has some things to work on. But I think that the benching maybe has helped him. Who knows?
Yeah, that he didn't look as bad as I was expecting him to look. I'm pretty sure I said on Friday that I had absolutely zero expectations of Zach Wilson because of the benching and how the team probably wouldn't want to rally around him. You never go out there and expect a guy to get crushed as a teammate. Like, you don't want that, regardless of comments that he's made. But on the flip side, you subconsciously hold on to a little bit of hatred there, and you maybe don't try as hard. And that's what I was concerned about. But the team didn't show that. 20-17 game against one of the best offenses in football.
One of the
Lions
worst defenses in football.
That's true. One of the best teams, or I'm sorry, one of the better offenses in football. In the Lions, I mean, and. Yeah. Listen, this is one of those things where what you just said comes into play, right? Good teams find a way to win these games, and the Lions were the team that came out victorious in this one.
We have a question in the comments. Do the Lions make the playoffs? I think it's possible. I think that there's a real possibility. Unfortunately, the tie between the Commanders and the Giants is killing them right now. But
they, even without the tie to the Commanders and Giants, they would be the 8th spot. On the outside behind Seattle right now, but Seattle's really floundering a little bit. I think like I said, I think the Lions are going to continue to do what the Lions have been doing. Let me check the rest of their schedule real quick. Lions schedule. All right. So the Lions have the Panthers this upcoming week, Christmas Eve at 1:00. And then they have
that game.
They are favored to win that game. Then they have the Bears on January 1st, and then the Packers. These are 3 winnable games for the Lions. So they need help. They got to win out, and they need the Commanders or the Seahawks to both lose a game. And it's very possible, like it is. So if you're flat out asking if right now if the Lions make the playoffs, I say they probably do. Yes,
I'd give them a better than 50% chance. Yeah, I would say even currently on the outside. Like sitting on the outside looking in, I would say that they're a favorite to snag a playoff spot.
They would go to the Vikings.
That'd be pretty funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and that's a game that they've already shown this year they can win. Just get in, right?
I'm pretty sure they've also shown that they can lose it too, but those divisional games get weird. I'd love to see them face for a third time though.
Steelers 24, Panthers 16. Listen, the Panthers lost. They're trying to get in the playoffs, but because the Buccaneers lost, they didn't lose any ground. One of the teams in that division is going to make the playoffs.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
It's unfortunate that it even has to be said that way, but
Well, the good news is not this coming week because the Lions play the Panthers, as we just touched on. The week after that, the Panthers play the Buccaneers, so we might have our answer in Week 17.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, at this point, if the Buccaneers could just win a game, they'd be the playoff team. I don't think any one of these other 3 teams are going to be able to overtake them with the remaining 3 games of the season, especially since the Buccaneers play the Panthers, obviously. But just the division is just so bad. I didn't even type anything down for this game. Sam Darnold didn't look super phenomenal. Really, the defense for the Steelers came out and they were ready to go, ready to stop the rushing attack of the Panthers, and it worked. They forced Sam Darnold to try and throw the football, and he was not victorious in doing so.
I think Sam Darnold actually had a pretty decent game. I mean, looking at the box score, I think the box score inflates his performance a little bit. 14 for 23, 225 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. But, I mean, DJ Moore had himself a great game. This is another team that just couldn't run the ball. Chuba Hubbard, 4 carries for 10 yards was their leading rusher. So I do think that Pittsburgh just outsmarted them here. I think Mike Tomlin came out with a better game plan than Steve Wilkes. And it happens. The Panthers, they were playing pretty good since the coaching switch. It was bound for them to, lose, but they're not out of it. And honestly, I would be okay if the Panthers made the playoffs. Like, I'd be kind of excited to see that.
Yeah, I would rather see the Panthers than the Buccaneers. When we get
into it later, there's 2 teams on the outside looking in currently that I would love to see in the Super Bowl if the Eagles don't make it. We'll touch on it later, though. But, yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh's quietly playing some good football. I know, obviously, Kenny Pickett wasn't in there. He was out with a concussion, and it was a Mitch Trubisky game. But I think, the Steelers have won 3 of their last 4, and I think quietly they're playing some decent football to end the season. So
they're technically still in the playoff hunt.
Yep, they're only 6-8. I mean,
yeah.
If you look at the AFC East, you think that they're juggernauts. Well, the Jets and the Patriots and even the Dolphins to a certain degree have all kind of slipped, here toward the middle end of part of the season. So a lot of spots wide open. The Chargers, the Raiders. I mean, there's tons of teams that could snag those last couple spots.
Jaguars could win their division be in. Like, the AFC is tight right now. Outside of, obviously, the 2 top teams, the AFC is tight right now.
Yeah. Well, top 3 teams.
The Bengals, yeah, you're right. Let's move on to the Jaguars defeating the Cowboys 40-34 in overtime. Dak Prescott throws 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. This is one of those games, right? So the Cowboys defense is really good. And we've said it several times, Cowboys defense is really good. One of those games where you look at it and the Cowboys were up 21-7 at one point, looking like they were going to cruise to a victory. And then all of a sudden, Zay Jones turns on his Jets, and Trevor Lawrence throws 4 touchdowns, and you're looking at overtime, and then just poor decision-making, I think, on Dak Prescott's hands. It wasn't a great throw, the one in overtime that got deflected and then intercepted and then returned for the touchdown. But also he threw into double coverage. I know CeeDee Lamb is your playmaker. You're hoping he makes a play on the ball, but game that tight, I'm thinking maybe you don't make that throw.
This is another one of those games that's similar to the Vikings-Colts. You said 21-7. I'll even one up that the Cowboys were up 27-10 at one point in the third quarter. This is a game their defense lost for them. You can't sit here and tell me that this team scored 34 points, all of which came on the offensive side of the ball, if I'm not mistaken, and then sit there and say, blame Dak Prescott for his interception in overtime. Was it an unwarranted throw? Probably unwarranted. I would agree with that. Should it have ever happened? No. You were up 17 points in the third quarter, and you are supposedly one of the better defenses, even in an elite defense in the NFL. You've got to close out that game.
Hey, that's fair, and I 100% agree.
On the other side of the football, Travis Etienne looks like he made a little bit of a comeback, 19 carries for 103 yards. And Trevor Lawrence has made massive strides from the beginning of the season. Obviously, we all know the Urban Meyer thing, and we've said it numerous times on the show. You cannot hold what happened last year against Trevor Lawrence. This is his real rookie year, and he's just making, strides like you would never even believe all in one season.
Yeah, 3,500 plus yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Yeah, he played some really good football, especially in the second half of that game against, like I said, an elite defense. Now, I'll ask you this. Does this loss, indicate that the Cowboys are in trouble?
No. Listen, good teams lose games. And it's cut and dry. The Eagles lost to the 7-6-1 Commanders earlier in the year. Good teams lose games. That defense is still very good in Dallas. It pains me to say, it hurts me a little bit to be like this open and positive for the Cowboys. But you said it on Friday, is that Doug Peterson coached against McCarthy for 2 years as a Cowboys coach. So he was ready and knew what to expect. And it looks like McCarthy gave exactly what Doug was going to expect to him, and Doug was able to outsmart him. And then obviously the defense loses the game. Good teams have bad games. I'm not panicking for the Cowboys. I don't think anybody should panic for the Cowboys. Do you have a big game against the Eagles coming up? Absolutely. Are you already behind and you needed to not lose? Yes, but good teams lose games.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I wouldn't panic necessarily if I was a Cowboys fan. I think there's cause for concern with Dak Prescott this year. He does lead the NFL in a disturbing statistic, and that is interception percentage, which is basically what percentage of your throws turn into interceptions. And he's sitting at 4%, which for every 400 attempts equates to 16 interceptions. So, and most quarterbacks would throw the ball about 600 times in a full season this year. So you do the math there. That Dak Prescott's turning the football over at an alarming rate. However, again, this loss isn't on him. You scored 34 points. What is your defense doing? So this game actually leads into, if the Eagles don't make the Super Bowl, the two teams that I would love to see make the playoffs and make it to the Super Bowl, I would love to see a Lions-Jaguars Super Bowl. That'd be so awesome, man.
I would love to see a Lions-Jaguars Super Bowl.
I guarantee you it wouldn't go the first time. The Lions wouldn't blow the Jags out 40-14. I touched on it a little bit earlier with one of my buddies who's a Jags fan. Good teams have bad games. I think that was a combination of the Lions were on fire that day and the Jags just didn't have it. So, I think that would be pretty cool, two guys that, two teams that were not even in the playoff race until the last, couple weeks of the season, and they sneak in. And I think that would be a pretty good story for football.
Yeah. Listen, I actually was talking to Allie about this on Sunday. I would love to see two very specific scenarios this year. I would love to see the Philadelphia Eagles be in the Super Bowl against Big Red. But now that the Jaguars are back in the conversation, I'd love to see the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl against Doug Peterson.
I would like to see Doug Peterson against Big Red in the AFC Championship game.
I would like to see that too, yeah. But those are two of those storylines that I like. So you got the longest tenured coach in Philadelphia or the coach who won us a Super Bowl against us in the Super Bowl. I would love those as storylines, and they would talk the shit out of that. Oh yeah. But no, you're right. Big Red versus Dougie P in the AFC Championship would be nice. Dak Prescott, to make your point a little bit better, is he's after Sunday's game, 14 touchdowns to 9 interceptions this season. I know he missed 6 or 5 games with a thumb injury. Yeah. All right. Another close game. This week was very indicative of any given Sunday, right? These are all professional football players, all of them. The Chiefs needed, I think this game went into overtime, didn't it?
It did. It did go in overtime.
It did go into overtime, yeah. So the Chiefs needed overtime on a Jerick McKinnon run to score a touchdown and win this game. The Texans played fairly well, and the Chiefs didn't look bad either. It was just one of those games, they were going toe-to-toe with each other. And obviously, again, good teams find ways to win these games, and the Chiefs did that.
Yeah, especially on the road, going to Houston. Look, Houston doesn't have a home win this year. But this game right here, this shows you everything you need to know, right? There's still surrounding arguments. I live in a college town, so some people talk about it, and it's an SEC college town nonetheless. So people are always bringing up Georgia would beat up on some NFL teams, or, Alabama would beat. No. The Houston, if they played a one-game NFL style right now, the Houston Texans would beat the University of Georgia by 2 touchdowns, and I would bet a lot of money on that.
I would agree with that, yes. But again, overall, just I love that there are games like this where it's why are the Texans able to keep up with the Chiefs? Well, because they're a professional football team.
It's the NFL, man. Think about how many seasons there have been, 2, where every team has lost every game, and think about how many seasons there have been 1 where every team won every game. I said this earlier. The 1972 Dolphins beat a non-playoff team by 2 points in week 3, the year that they went undefeated. If that had
Yes.
happened in today's game, everybody would have called them frauds all season long and said that they were the worst team in the NFL. But because,
Yes.
most people weren't, most people my age, your age, nobody was alive for that. People just look at it and go, oh, 17-0. Here's what matters in the NFL. Did you win? Did you lose? That's it. The result, you could have the ugliest game in the world, Jalen Hurts, and win the
Get a
game. Or
victory.
you could have, the best game of your career, Davis Mills, and lose. Like it happens. All that matters, did you win? Did you lose?
Yes. I could not have said it better myself.
Yeah. Point margins are not indicative of how like I said, the Lions blew the Jags out 40-14. If they played again this week, that wouldn't happen. I wouldn't bet on that happening.
I just love that we're getting games that is like hardcore proof of literally any given Sunday. Just get to the stadium, show up, put your best game on, and let's go and see what happens. I just love it. Let's see. Broncos defeat the Cardinals 24-15. The Broncos defense, the numbers are a little bit inflated because of how bad the offense has been this year. Let's not argue about it. However, the defense looked really good on Sunday against the Cardinals. You're talking they are averaging 320 yards per game, 17.3 points per game. But I go right back to the offense has not been good. The offense has not helped them out. They're on the field a lot. Yeah. So for me, I know that statistically they're a better than average defense, but when you look at the whole picture, that's it. That's
they're
a good
an elite
defense.
defense. They're an elite
Exactly.
defense. That's
Exactly.
a Super Bowl winning defense that they're just stuck with. A AAA offense.
Correct. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that point up. I'm glad you agree with me. I wanted to bring that point up because people are like, oh, well, they're like 13th in yards per game. They're giving up 17 points a game. Well, yeah, they're also on the field for almost 40 minutes a game. Like your offense not getting you off the field affects how you perform later in games. They're exhausted at the end of games. They're giving up longer drives at the end of games, and this is why their record is 4-10 now. But that defense is good. That defense is good.
Yeah, and this was a battle of backups, and there was a third-string quarterback in there too. Obviously, Kyler Murray's hurt out for the season. Russell Wilson did not start this game. It was Brett Rypien who went 21-26 for 197 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So he actually played, decent. Judy was okay, but Latavius Murray, 24 carries for 130 yards. He had a really good game. The Cardinals did end up resorting to Trace McSorley, who went 7 of 15 for 95 yards and 2 interceptions. So this was a battle of the backups. This game kind of went exactly how I thought, except it was a little more high scoring than I thought it would be.
Again, yeah, I think when I did the predictions on Friday, I don't really need this anymore. When I did the predictions on Friday, I think I said I was looking at like a 21-17 game. I think that's what my prediction was.
I said under for sure. I remember that. I think the over-under was like 37 or something like that. But man, this game.
Yeah, we have to talk about the ending of this game more than anything, really. For those of you who did not see the replay yet, with time running out, the Patriots do a run play. The score is tied 24-24. Patriots do a run play. They pitch the ball back to Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne tries to throw the ball back across the field, throws it right to I don't even know his name, linebacker for the Oakland Raiders.
It was Jacoby Myers, and he tried to throw it back to Mac Jones, and then the Mac Jones attempt to tackle. That was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. He got completely steamrolled and bullied and manhandled, and it was embarrassing. I mean, to be fair, Mac Jones is built like a lump of Play-Doh, so I didn't expect him to actually make the tackle, but
it was just a really curious play call to begin with. Why not a Hail Mary? I know Mac Jones doesn't have the strongest arm in the NFL, but why not give yourself a shot down the field? Instead, you choose a running play, and then all of a sudden it's like some schoolyard BS. And then you get the result that you get, right? A really, 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 really ugly turnover. I guess it's considered an interception on some level, or a fumble. I don't even know how they're going to list that. Fumble. Okay. Return for a touchdown, and the Raiders get the victory here. Listen, I took the Raiders. I'm happy that the Raiders won from that aspect, but it shouldn't have happened that way. Also, apparently, people are saying on Twitter that Myers stepped out when he had the football, so it should have never the play should never have even transpired the way it did. I didn't see any of that, so I don't know for sure. All I saw was the ending of the game, and that's just like an ugly, ugly, ugly way to lose that game.
Yeah, and it was not a great game for the Patriots offense anyway. Mac Jones went 13 of 31 for 112 yards, which is 3.6 yards per attempt. So, but Ramondre Stevenson had himself a game, 19 carries, 172 yards, and a touchdown. Josh Jacobs, that was a Josh Jacobs performance from Ramondre Stevenson, and then Josh Jacobs, 22 carries for 93 yards, fairly good in his own right. Which the funniest part about this is the Patriots, who were the 7th seed, I don't know where they currently stand at this moment, have now let the Las Vegas Raiders right back into the playoff talks.
They're sitting at 11.
They had a chance to stick the nail in the coffin and keep themselves in the 7th seed. And it's going to be ironic if the Raiders make the playoffs and the Patriots don't.
Yeah, so AFC playoff picture, I'm going to just rattle it off real quick. In order, 1 through, I'll give you till 10. Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Titans, Chargers, or Jaguars are catching them. Ravens, still a game behind the Bengals with a head-to-head matchup coming. Chargers are at 6. Dolphins are at 7. Patriots and Jets both at 7 and 7 or 8 and 9. Jacksonville at 6 and 8 is at 10. And then the Raiders right there, 6 and 8. At 11, the Browns are at 12. At 6 and 8, Steelers are at 13 at 6 and 8, and somehow magically the Colts are still mathematically not eliminated. I think it's just because of how the division is shaking out right now. But yeah, so that's the AFC playoff picture. NFC in order again: Eagles, Vikings, Niners, Cowboys. Sorry. Eagles, Vikings, Niners. As of right now, Buccaneers, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders, and then you got the Seahawks on the outside, Lions on the outside, Packers still in it, and then everybody else in the NFC South. But yeah, to your point, 100% correct. Belichick could have put the nail in the coffin for the Raiders and couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
Titans, Chargers.
He did not have his best game, but Justin Herbert was great when they needed him to be. Did you see that throw he made to Mike Williams on the sideline?
Yeah, I saw that throw. He's like looking like he's about to run out of bounds, kind of sort of tripping a little bit. Laser right to, well, not laser because he had to float it over the linebacker. Perfect throw to Mike Williams on the sideline, which led to the game-winning field goal.
Yeah, that was an insane throw. That was a great throw. That was a guy who trusts his big receiver to go up and get a football because Mike Williams went up and got it. That was a great play. Like I said, not his best game. He had 2 interceptions, no touchdowns, but great when they needed him to be.
Listen, the Titans are falling apart, right? Losers in 4 straight. Tannehill was visibly injured. He was carted off of the field in the first quarter, came back to play. There is absolutely no faith in Malik Willis. None.
I mean, have you watched him play?
I have, but letting Tannehill play visibly injured, he was limping the entire game. That's really, really, really sending a message to a kid that you drafted in the second round, if I'm not mistaken. You're not third round. You're not NFL ready. Cut and dry. Maybe we shouldn't even suit you up. Somebody else should be suiting up. That's essentially the vibe I get from Vrabel and the coaching staff for the Tennessee Titans right now.
But this is a perfect scenario of a team getting hot at the right time. The Chargers come off a big win against Miami, and now they have a big win against Tennessee. 2 teams that are sitting in the playoff picture as we speak. So my question to you is, and this is really the only thing that I have to touch on during this game for the Chargers side, is Justin Herbert and the play of the team saving Brandon Staley's job?
Yes. I mean, let's just look at the facts here, right? They get in. His job is safe. They don't. He's not. I think it's that simple for LA right now. Now, obviously, as a team, you don't want to go out and you don't want to go fail. So you're going to keep playing your ass off. But for me, the way I feel about it is now you took a struggling Chargers team, and they were struggling 3-4 weeks ago, and now they're an 8-6 team, and they're looking, they're sitting in a playoff spot. Not only are they sitting in a playoff spot, they're sitting in the 6th spot. They're not even the 7th seed. So right now you're feeling pretty confident in your team to make the playoffs. And you've played one of the best teams in football, the Chiefs, to 2 games this year within 1 score when all your main players weren't healthy the entire time. Yeah, if I'm the Chargers ownership general manager out there, I think Staley if they make the playoffs, has got himself another year. But I would not be surprised if they fall out of playoff contention if he's fired the day the season ends, not the day after. I'm talking like press conference, last game, afterwards he's gone.
Yeah, I want to agree with you, but I think that Brandon Staley has to win a game in the playoffs in order, or at least have some kind of. They can't just like get the doors blown off of them in the first round of the playoffs, and then that saves Brandon Staley's job. I think that they have to at least look like a significant team in the playoffs in order to save his job.
Right now they go to Cincinnati right now.
I think that would be an interesting storyline, Joe Burrow versus Justin Herbert. I mean, we've seen Justin Herbert, against Tua this year. So, but the other interesting stat that I wanted to point out from this game is that defense is not the issue for the Titans. They forced 2 turnovers from Justin Herbert. I think that they had a pretty good game. The Titans are scoring less points than all but like 6 teams across the NFL. I mean, the entire AFC West outside of Denver has outscored them by almost 80 points, at least. The offense is just so incompetent in Tennessee, and something's got to be done, whether it's firing the offensive coordinator, whether it's finding a new quarterback. That's going to be an offseason topic. But right now, it's not Tennessee's defense that's the issue. They're a good enough defense to be a playoff team. This offense is really failing this squad right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We looked at it right before we jumped on here. Tennessee has scored more than 24 points once this season, and it's when they scored 27 points against the Packers in Week 10. That's not a good look for a team trying to get in the playoffs and keep up with some of these powerhouse offenses like the Bills and the Chiefs and the Bengals. Like it's not a good look. Speaking of the Bengals, they are down 21-0 at one point to Tom Brady-led Buccaneers. Not 21-0. I'm sorry, 17-0.
Yeah, 17-0.
17-0. To the Tom Brady-led Buccaneers. Tom Brady has never lost a game when leading by 17 points. Well, welcome to the Bengals. Bengals come back and are victorious, obviously, 34-23. I'm going to make a bold prediction here. The Buccaneers are not the team from the South that make the playoffs.
You know what? I wish that this was one of those games like before where the defense, you look at the defense, and you can to a certain extent. However, when it comes to the Cowboys and when it comes to the Colts, their teams had scored 30-plus points, 27-10 and 33-0 it was. And now, you're talking 17-0. That's not like a substantial lead in the NFL. That's not it's 3 scores, but that's in the second quarter versus, late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter. The offense just fell apart. They just stopped. I mean, 4 straight turnovers, 3 of them by Brady. So it definitely wasn't his best performance. But, the Bengals, no way to cut it other than they're Super Bowl contenders, and this is what Super Bowl teams do. They don't panic when they're down 17-0. Look at the AFC Championship game last year against Kansas City Chiefs. They don't panic.
Correct. I don't have a specific team that I think will beat the Buccaneers out of the playoff race from the South. I just don't think it's going to be the Buccaneers. They don't look good right now.
Interesting stat from the NFC South. The Buccaneers have scored the least amount of points in the NFC South.
Yes, they have.
Who do you think scored the most without looking?
Falcons.
Okay. I already know you looked at it before the show. So
I didn't look at it before the show. I was listening to you talk. I didn't look that up. It was the Falcons.
Well, I didn't say it, but yeah, that's
It was either the Falcons or the Saints. I had a 50-50 shot. I know the Panthers haven't been scoring a ton of points this season. Like I had a 50-50 chance.
Falcons are the only team that has scored over 300 points in the NFC South this year.
Well, all right then. They're not going to make the playoffs. Yeah, like I said,
we'll see.
I just don't know who out of that division it's going to be. I just have this really sinking feeling that the Buccaneers are not going to be that team. If I had to give you my answer, I'd probably say the Panthers. But also Dalton and the Saints are looking pretty decent, and they also very well could get in. I just don't think it's going to be the Bucs. Sunday Night Football. Giants hold off the Commanders 20-12. Very controversial call on Terry McLaurin, who asked the referee if he was onside or not. Referee said, yep. They ran the play, touchdown scored, called back because Terry McLaurin was offside.
I think it was a legal formation called?
Correct. After McLaurin looked at the referee, and you can see it in the replay. He looks at the ref, asks, am I good? Ref says, move up a little. Yeah. like the whole thing. Very controversial. I think it's easy to say that this week was the worst week for NFL officiating in the season so far. And yeah, again, Giants get back in the win column, win 20-12. Commanders are still inside the playoff picture. Question, I guess, for the Commanders, and I guess I really don't really even need to ask, but it is a topic going around right now with Heineke struggling the last few games. Is it time to go back to Carson Wentz?
No, not yet. I don't think they're that desperate, and I don't think Heineke played that bad. I don't know how they didn't score more points. I mean, you look at the box score, and they move the football up and down the field, but truthfully, the Commanders just aren't a good football team, like no matter who's at quarterback, they're just like, okay. Like the fact that they're 7-6-1 doesn't surprise me in the slightest. That's right about where I would think that they would be after watching them play this year.
Team, yeah.
Yeah, they're literally an average team. They're just not good. They don't, have a great offensive line. They have good receivers, but Dotson's young. Curtis Samuel's kind of used as a gadgety guy. They have a decent backfield split. Their defense just isn't great this year. They're okay, I guess, but they're just an okay team. Like, I don't think it matters who's at quarterback.
Listen, I agree with you. It was tough to find highlights from this game. Obviously, the controversial referee call. Saquon Barkley had a pretty decent game. And just overall, like I said, it's just a topic that came up on ESPN and NFL Network on two different shows. So I thought maybe it was actually a controversy situation that we could touch on. And some people are saying that they should go back to Carson Wentz because he's healthy.
I do think that I think Wentz provides a higher ceiling for that offense, but Heineke provides a better floor. I think Heineke's a safer option. He's not going to turn the ball over as much. He's not going to take as many sacks. But I do think that they have a higher ceiling in that offense with Wentz because he has better big play ability.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I will not lie to any of you viewers out there. I did not watch a single snap of this game. So I don't have very much information on it. Now, Packers are still in the playoff race. I just gave you the outside looking in. They're number 10. In the current playoff race. So if they win out, they could potentially be in the playoffs at 9-8. But they play the Lions. We know they play the Lions last week of the season. That's going to be a tough victory for the Packers there. And they're in
Lambeau.
Detroit. Or in Lambeau,
no,
yeah.
Lambeau.
Yeah.
I'm taking Rodgers in that game. I'll let you know right now. You can go ahead and fill that document out. If it's for a playoff game, I'm taking Rodgers.
If it's for a playoff game, I would probably lean on Rodgers more than Goff as well. But where it sits, the Lions have been the hotter team. So, it's a give and take a little bit there. You have any stats in this game you want to talk about? Like I got nothing on this game.
It went exactly like I thought it would. A.J. Dillon had himself a game. They finally started utilizing him, and look at that. Green Bay is winning football games. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are the heart of that offense. Romeo Dobbs has got his flashes. Christian Watson's come on strong. Looks like he could be a future wide receiver one in the NFL. But the Packers have to run the ball. Aaron Rodgers can't do it all on his own anymore. So the fact that they finally started utilizing both backs, it's generated results. And for those of you wondering, A.J. Dillon is out of concussion protocol. But this game went exactly the way I thought it would. The Rams are cooked. Allen Robinson's out. Cooper Kupp's out. Van Jefferson missed the first half of the season. And now Ben Skoronek's out for the season. So they're done. They're washed.
Yeah, quick stats on this game. Nothing overwhelming from either quarterback. Baker Mayfield, 12-21, 111, 1-1. Aaron Rodgers, 22 of 32, 29. Again, 1-1. Ryan already talked about it. These aren't those Aaron Rodgers numbers that are jumping off the page at you like, oh, man, he's definitely going to be the MVP again. Because
that one interception he threw was like some bad communication. Like the throw wasn't even close.
Okay. See, I didn't, yeah. But this really goes back to what Timmy said with the Saints, and it goes exactly the same way with the Packers and A.J. Dillon and A.J. Green. Not A.J. Green, I'm sorry. Wow, that was wrong.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. I don't even know why I pulled A.J. Green out of nothing. Anyway, wow, that was a mistake. But yeah, so with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, they, as you already said, heart of the team, run the football, and you have the way better odds at success in the passing game. It starts with the run game.
Tim Hawkins says Dillon left with a concussion. I did previously mentioned that he is out of concussion protocol.
Very good for the Packers going into the final three game stretch that both of those guys are healthy.
Comments. Did you guys talk about Hurts yet? We're going to do an update on Hurts on Friday. We'll have more information around 4 p.m. When the Eagles have to make a call up from the practice squad, which whether they do or don't will tell us a lot about what Hurts' situation looks like. So,
yeah, exactly what Ryan said there. If you have a chance there, Fortify, check out Talking 215. They had a doctor on yesterday afternoon talking about it. There's a little bit of information there, but like Ryan said, we don't have anything on the injury report until 4 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah, and Gardner Minshew was excused from practice today to attend the funeral for his former coach, Mike Leach, which is the right move to do, despite the fact that he might be starting on Sunday. Or Saturday. He does not need to be at the walkthrough. That some things are bigger than football, and that needs to happen.
So. Yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with you. I know exactly what tweet you're talking about. I'm not going to drop a name or nothing, but it was worded extremely poorly, as if like he thought Baker Mayfield was putting that above his team, and that's obviously not the case.
Gardner Minshew, you were just screwing these names up right now. With that being said, we're going to do the call to the Bill pen and put an end to this show. So, thank you.
In my defense, I do got the meat sweats going on. I had a nice big juicy steak for my birthday dinner. All right.
Lucky we're live.
Yeah. You can get it afterwards. Anyway, thanks for joining us here on BSing Sports, part of the BSing Network, where we do a little BS and we talk a whole lot of sports. Have a good night.